Let's do better than that.
Okay. Ow!
Hey everyone, and welcome back to our channel, The Doyle Family Detour. I'm Mike.
I'm Ellie.
And we're the Doyles.
And this is episode 6.
Wow.
We have a new mic. Last week our mic broke. So this is Snowball, which is appropriate because it snowed this morning.
We got it from Walmart for $50, so.
Yeah. Slim pickings when you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was actually so excited to get to Walmart because I think, where was the grocery store we went to before? It was like Porter's. I don't know.
It was in Van Horn.
Yeah, it's cool to experience new grocery stores in different places because, like, you get the cuisine that's local to where you are. So we got, like, good Mexican food in West Texas. But after a certain point, you're like, get me Target, get me Publix.
Yeah, good Mexican food.
Good Mexican food.
Good Mexican food, not good chicken wings.
Oh, my God. Yeah, Mike can eat anything, and he couldn't even eat those
It was
wings.
rough.
That was bad.
It tasted like canned chicken.
I didn't even try.
And it was not, it said buffalo wing, and,
It was Buffalo Gato.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we are in Carlsbad, New Mexico right now.
Yeah, Carlsbad, New Mexico, right on the border of Mexico and Texas. We are right in the middle of two major national parks. The one, Guadalupe Mountains, which...
Yeah, we were there for a few days.
If you look outside our campsite, to our left, you can see the Guadalupe Mountains.
You can kind of see the mountains behind us. This is our friends. Well, our friends, we made them. We made friends with them, like, because we're neighbors. And our kids have been
playing. And you're so friendly.
And I'm so friendly. I went over and I was like, hey.
You bargained Maisie. You're like, oh, all right, Maisie, go over there and take the trampoline. And
that's true, actually. That's not even a joke. They have 4 kids and they're all so sweet that I was like, we have the trampoline. I was like, okay, Maisie, go jump near them to see if they want to play. And she's like, okay.
Just dipping her toe in the water.
So they have been playing. They've been kicking the ball around. The little girls brought Maisie over a Frozen toy, which, I mean, come on, that's instant friends.
The nicest kids.
And she gave each one of them, when she had to leave last night to go to when we were having dinner, like a solid 10-second hug each. Like, full embrace, legs wrapped around them. Like, she was craving some playtime with kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we are all craving some, like, human interaction other
Besides
than
each other.
us 3.
Yeah.
Get a little stir crazy at times.
So we've been hanging out with that family. They're cool.
Yeah.
It's nice to meet people on the road. Everyone's really, like-minded and wants the same thing for their kids. They want their kids to be outside playing in nature and, not being COVID babies. What did our friend Lauren had a term for them? They were called, like, panda babies or something. But regardless, I mean, I want Maisie to have the kind of growing up experience that we had, you with all your friends. And I mean, my memories of growing up in Country Walk, my mom would ring a bell when I had to come back in for dinner, and our front door was always open.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Your mom literally rang a dinner bell.
Rang a bell. We had a bell by our front door in Country Walk, our green front door, and she would ring it when it was time to come in.
Were there other families with other bells?
I think we were the only bells, but there was kids in our whole neighborhood.
Because that would get confusing if there were more than one bell.
But anyway, so Maisie's having a great time. She's thriving. Weather's been pretty cold, but it's been manageable, and our rig has held up after we winterized the systems, which is really good. That was a stressful, like, day or so figuring out how we were going to do that when we were in Big Bend. Mm-hmm. But then once we got it, we were good. So from Big Bend, we went to the Guadalupe Mountains, and we stayed in the Pine Springs Campground.
Yeah.
And hung out in Guadalupe for... Guadalupe, like it's a place. The Guadalupe National Park. We stayed in the national park, which was cool.
Pine Springs, yep.
The Pine Springs Campground. And maybe we should say, like, our top 3 things to do in Guadalupe National Park for those visiting.
Well, so when you think about the Guadalupe Mountains, the first thing you would think of is just how picturesque it is. It is beautiful. Mm-hmm. Just the landscapes of the mountains, they're a little different from Big Bend just because you're a lot closer to them as far as like where we were camped. Mm-hmm. and the terrain is a little bit more steep. It just looks a little bit more treacherous.
Yeah.
And therefore, exciting, at least for me.
The hikes included a lot more like bouldering and climbing over like big rocks rather than the terrain of Big Bend, which was relatively, for the hikes that we did were relatively tame.
Yeah, a lot smaller, like I said, than Big Bend. But I think it's like, I got it right here. There's 135 square miles encompassing, and it's just really one big ridge. And it goes all the way through into New Mexico to where the Carlsbad Caverns are, which we're also going to talk about in this podcast, which we got to experience yesterday, which was also
cool.
Incredible.
Yeah. So, Guadalupe National Park. One thing, obviously, you have to do in any national park is get your hikes in. Pine Springs Campground accommodates small rigs and large rigs, and a lot of
camping.
And tent camping, yeah. And many of the hikes that you can take there leave straight from the campground. So we decided to do the Devil's Hall hike, which is about 4 miles out and back, but it's considered a hard hike on all trails. And I would say that's very fair. The first mile is really easy, and I remember walking it and I was like, oh, why is this considered hard? But once you get to past that first mile, it's all rock. It's really sketchy. Some points I even had to look on the all trails map to see, is this the end of the hike? Because it doesn't look like there's a paved area. You have to
not a clear path.
Yeah, go over these big rocks. Maisie wasn't having it. We didn't bring the hiking backpack. So after probably about a mile, Mike took her back so that I could finish the hike. And I did, and it was beautiful, and I'm so glad I did. So Devil's Hall, honestly, even with a backpack, don't recommend it for young families, but for older kids and adults, absolutely. It was beautiful, stunning.
If you're able-bodied, you can totally do it.
Yeah. Going back to the campground, I accidentally took the path that is Guadalupe Peak. That's a really big hike, so I hiked up the mountain for a little bit. Got to experience some great views, but not my hike. But regardless, different level hikes for whatever you're kind of craving, from small little loops around the campground that you are able to take the dogs on, which is awesome, to upwards of 11 miles. So definitely get your hiking in. You can hike straight from the campground if you decide to stay there. And then I think number 2 is check out the visitor center there. Did you go into the visitor center? Or did you just see the outside?
Yeah, I just saw the outside.
Okay. So I ended up going to the visitor center to get some work done on my laptop because, most national parks visitor center will have free Wi-Fi. And they have a whole museum there. And it was really cool of fossils and skeletons of animals and just this whole little museum next to their visitor center shop and information. But the visitor center was really cool
The visitor centers at all the places we've been to have been really cool.
Yeah, I think a visitor center is going to be a must for most national parks because not only are you getting the clean bathrooms and the Wi-Fi and whatever, but they always have awesome museums, the young ranger programs for kids, and just,
the people who work there too, you could tell they really love nature and they want to be there.
Yeah.
It's very genuine.
And then number 3, I think, would be another great place to stargaze. Get outside. Considering that Pine Springs Campground is right next to a trail, you can even kind of venture out of your camper and walk onto the trail a bit and have no light pollution and just see the stars. And
I walked out.
Beautiful.
I walked out one night and I looked up at the mountains and I did see a few flickering lights that were telling me that there were people up there on the trail just looking up at the stars or doing night hiking, which I probably wouldn't do just because it's
a little, you gotta be a little ballsy.
It sounds a little sketch for me at least, but people do it and it seems like it could be really cool.
Yeah. The night sky, you don't get those kind of views in a city. It's just, it makes you really,
it's high def.
It gives you perspective. They were in high def. So.
And like you said, Guadalupe Mountains, they're known for people going there to stargaze, just like Big Bend.
Yeah.
Another reason why people like to go there is for the hikes. So where we were staying was kind of like a parking lot, and I'd say by 9 a.m. it's completely full with cars. And it's all for people who just coming there the day to hike. I've seen large groups of people, and I thought, maybe guys in their 20s, there's 20 of them.
Yeah.
It looked like they're either part of a class or a
bachelor
CrossFit
party or something. They were like, if they were the funniest group of guys, they were like all kind of the same vibe, like short shorts, headband, tats, but they were like bros.
At least half of them had mustaches.
So stoked for this hike, man. But like they were awesome. They were nice. Like we talked to them a bit on the hike, but it was just like a bunch of bros just getting out in nature, enjoying the sights.
And just as many as you had those guys, you had people who were just by themselves or a couple. And
families.
And I heard that we didn't do it. We're not really into it, but bird watching is really, really popular at Guadalupe because there's such a large array of different kinds of birds. There's all different kinds of falcons. There are roadrunners, which didn't you say you saw one?
I didn't even know that that's what I saw until I was talking to my brother Johnny, and he was like, if you haven't seen roadrunners yet, then you haven't really done West Texas right, you got to go back, whatever. And I was like, I don't know if I have, and I looked up a picture, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've seen those since Del Rio, Texas. I have been seeing these little roadrunners, and they do run across the street really fast. They don't go meep meep, but they are everywhere.
I've told you this before. Most of my knowledge of animals and life in general has come from Looney Tunes.
Yeah. I mean, they have accurate portrayals of
except
animals.
for the Roadrunner, obviously.
No, none of them are accurate. I was just fucking with you. So that was Guadalupe National Park. One thing I don't recommend doing is parking next to someone with a huge exhaust pipe that causes your carbon monoxide alarm to go off and you to call 911 in the middle of the night.
You want to tell the story?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, so Ellie made a delicious dinner when we...
What did I make, Michael?
I mean, it's all good.
No,
it's like
what did I make?
So good. I can't think of anything that you don't make that's so good.
Okay.
Wait. If I had to think about it, you made... It wasn't chili. It was... There was vegetables. Definitely vegetables. There was some sort of protein.
Wow.
And you definitely had some carbohydrates in there.
Put it this way. It's a word that you never say right in Spanish.
Okay. Milanesa. That's
For
right.
some reason,
I should have remembered.
You always put the ñ in there. You say Milan... I don't even know how to say it.
Milanesa.
Yeah, you say Milanesa.
I think it's just my gringo kind of like not coming from Miami, trying to overcorrect. And you always try to like overpronounce things that you think is Spanish, but it's like totally wrong.
Yeah. No, so... Yeah, I made milanesa and like mashed potatoes or something for dinner.
Yep.
And we were eating right in the middle of dinner and the alarm went off.
Yeah, so our CO, our carbon monoxide detector, is right next to our door on our step going up into our room. And
it's by the front door.
Yeah. We originally thought, oh, that's the smoke detector, which is behind me up on the wall, pretty much on the ceiling in the main area. At first we thought it was that. We saw that it wasn't, and then we noticed that it was coming from down there. Honestly, we didn't even really know what that was.
It was just red, and it wasn't blinking. And so I quickly looked that up, and the red, when it just stays red, it means that there's a dangerous level of carbon monoxide detected in your vehicle.
Right.
So, yeah, that's not something that you want to sit around Google, try to troubleshoot. You want to get your family out. So I got Maisie out. I got the dogs on their leash. We all got in the truck, and then we started troubleshooting. Yeah,
you called Good Sam, which is...
you turned off the propane.
Yeah.
Alarm was still going off. I called our Good Sam Elite membership. No one there could help. They didn't have anyone working. It was like 8-something at night. Yeah. So we called 911.
Yeah, so before we called 911, we tried to troubleshoot it ourselves. We were scrambling, trying to figure out what was going on. We read that, it could be natural gas, which we have that with our stove. It wasn't that. It could be a propane leak, which it wasn't, because
you would have smelled it.
I would have smelled it. And what was the other one? Oh, your generator. And we hadn't run our generator in a few hours. So we called 911. And this guy, Eric, he kind of stays on the land. He kind of just oversees if anyone needs help. He's kind of like a volunteer. He showed up a few minutes later.
Yeah, 911 contacted the rangers.
Yeah.
And the volunteer was the first one there, so he came over and kind of started assessing it. But by that point, our carbon monoxide alarm was green. So you're like, we swear we weren't lying. It really was going off.
Yes, it was green because, and at the same time, the guy next door had turned his generator off.
Yeah.
And so him and I were both talking about it, and that's what we kind of deduced that was the reason.
Yeah.
And then the ranger came a few minutes later and confirmed that that's pretty much what the issue was. So he made the guy next to us take his generator down, And
it wasn't just the generator, though. It was that this guy had like an exhaust pipe like jutting out from his rig, and it was kind of directly pointed at our front door.
Yeah. It was an exhaust pipe. If you look at a semi-truck, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, it was wild.
Pipes.
Like, it had to have been like he made it himself, just whatever. But
blowing right at our door, and it was leaking.
Yeah, I have a feeling he like did that whole situation himself. That's not like something that you buy, because I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
But it was blowing dangerous gases right into our door, and it was causing the alarm to go off. So that was scary. I feel like we took all the right steps. The second ranger brought over a second carbon monoxide alarm. He was so nice. He was like, so that we can all sleep better tonight, plug this in, let's see what the levels are at. And they were 0. So mad props to the Guadalupe National Park park rangers and the 911. Like, they were so quick. I mean, from the 911 call to when the first ranger was there was probably 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
And that guy, I mean, he probably felt bad. He never talked to us, and
Our neighbor.
Yeah, he was gone by like 6 a.m. the next morning, so I never even saw him.
Oh, I don't even think I told you. I made like eye contact with him before I had realized what was going on when I was looking out the door when you were talking to the park ranger. And it was just awkward. Like, he looked at me like I just caught him like cheating on his wife. Like, it was awkward. He was like, he. And I was like, I didn't know that.
You're like, saw, dude.
Yeah. So that was our experience at the Guadalupe National Parks. It is a much less visited national park than some of the bigger ones, but I would say don't sleep on it. Go check it out. Go check it out. Go stay in the Pine Springs Campground.
Especially if you like hiking.
Yeah. And, some of these national parks, you have to, even if you're staying in the park, you still have to drive 30, 40 minutes to get to a hike. It was really cool that all these hikes were located directly at your campground.
Yeah. That one especially.
Oh, another thing about the Pine Springs Campground, why it was awesome. They had a dishwashing station there. Mm-hmm. They had beautiful, clean, flushable toilets, like the bathrooms right there, and they had potable drinking water. Yeah. That the rangers were like, you don't even have to put your water filtration system through this. It's so clean, you just drink the water.
Yeah, having those small little accommodations means not driving 50 miles to go dump your tank or pick up water and spending half of a day. That right there makes your day.
There wasn't a dump station, but the dishes, the drinking water, the bathrooms were huge.
Yeah.
A lot of the times at these campsites, you get like vault toilets that are almost like a fancy porta potty, but these were flush toilets, and so cool and so nice, and definitely recommend staying at the Pine Springs Campground if you are going to go to Guadalupe National Park.
Do you need to make a reservation for that?
You do. Recreation.gov, as with most national parks or even some state parks, you reserve everything online beforehand. Sometimes it's hard to get reservations, as we've been finding things book up early, but even if it says nothing's available, keep checking back because people cancel all the time.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move on to right down the road, the Carlsbad Caverns.
And a lot of times people combine these two national parks into one, so they'll stay at one of the campgrounds. Like, we had talked to some people at the Guadalupe National Parks, and they were like, oh yeah, we did the caverns yesterday. It's not a bad drive. It's like a 30, 40-minute drive from the Guadalupe National Park to Carlsbad.
And like I was trying to say earlier, right where we're parked is right smack dab in the middle of both of them, because if you look out to the left, you can see the Guadalupe Ridge, which is Texas, and then to your right, you can see the visitor center for the Carlsbad Caverns right on top of the hill, which is New Mexico, which is crazy. Like, so we're right on the border.
And that's why our phones were going back in and out. Mike and I have been on different time zones for the past, which is kind of like how we operate. We check the time and we go by there like, oh, it's time for lunch, oh, it's time for Maisie's nap. But mine was clocking in mountain time, and yours was clocking in what? Central. So when you're at the Guadalupe Mountains, you're in mountain time, but your iPhone might not register it. So just know, if you're at the Guadalupe National Park, you are still mountain time. And then here in Carlsbad, we're also still mountain time.
Do you ever think if there's a house that's right on the line, like I used to think as a kid, if I wanted another hour of sleep, I would just go to the other side of the house to get an extra hour.
I wonder how places like that, how they work out like school time, and if they lean one way or the other, like depending on what benefits them more. We'll have to talk to some people who live on a border time zone. Anyway, so we're here now. This is our first BLM, like totally free campsite. This is Bureau of Land. This is free public land. BLM stands for Bureau of Land Management.
Did we mention the name?
We're at Sunset Reef Campground.
Yeah.
So, found this through Campendium. I always look at reviews and what people say, if it's good for big rigs, how the service is, because I do have to work. And we decided to stay at Sunset Reef Campground. If you're coming from the Campendium coordinates, it'll take you pretty much to where you need to turn down. And then the first opening that you can turn right, you just go down that road and you'll find this little oasis where there's just, rigs of all sizes. I read online that there's only a few spots that have picnic tables and grills and that kind of situation for larger rigs. So we got here early and we were able to snag one of those spots. So super cool and beautiful 360 views around us of mountains and just green and lush. So this has definitely been one of my favorite spots we stayed at, and it's totally free.
Yeah.
So there's vaulted bathrooms here, but besides that, you're bare bones. So you'd want to come in with everything you need and pack out everything that you brought.
Luckily, Carlsbad, the city, is 25 miles from here. Mm-hmm. So, it will take maybe like a half a day to get everything you need. So we did a trip. We got all of our propane, all of the gas we could possibly get. Groceries.
Post office stop for my work. And Mike went to the dump station in Carlsbad to dump our tanks and fill up our freshwater tank with water, since there's no water at this campsite.
Yep.
I thought that place was a little sketchy, though. It got really good reviews, and I actually left a not-so-great review because...
On what?
On Campendium.
But where? For what?
The dump station.
Oh, it was fine. It was great, actually.
I thought that there was a lot of homeless people walking around, and they were kind of getting too close to the truck for comfort and kind of talking into the sky, and just kind of sketched me out.
Yeah, after living in the Tenderloin for a few months in San Francisco, that doesn't really bother me.
Yeah, well, it kind of freaked me out. But, it is a public park, so, take that with what you will. But the expression. Mike's been making fun of me lately because I don't know expressions. Take that with what will.
2 hands in the bush is equal to 2 quarters in the sun.
Precisely.
Precisely.
So we dumped our tanks, got to the park, and then kind of settled in the first night, enjoyed the sunset and just the area. And then the next day, which was yesterday, we hit up the caverns, which was incredible.
I think what is most surprising to me is I underestimated how much money goes into these national parks. You think of parks and just being like, well, what kind of money do you need to spend? You go to Carlsbad Caverns and you'll see exactly how much of your tax dollars and all that money, where that goes, because it is a top-notch facility. You go in there and it is huge. They have it's like a museum.
Wesley,
what's up, buddy?
He wants to go play.
Oh, gotta lay down.
It is. When you get to the visitor center, it is a museum, and it's stunning. They have movies playing, and another truly cool visitor center was Carlsbad Caverns. Do not sleep on the visitor centers, man. And
that is just scratching the surface, pun intended. Because below is where all the action is.
I was about to be like,
you're like, what? Yeah. People go there for... Let me start over. The drive up is also pretty incredible. Yeah. I think square miles, it's only like 130 or so square miles altogether. And I believe that's saying just the surface, just the land. I don't think they're counting the actual caverns. And so the drive up is very unique because as you're driving through, you are right on top of these big cliffs. And then all of a sudden,
it was the closest we've been to the mountains during one of our drives.
And then you go around another bend and you could see for 20 miles. Mm-hmm. And it's all like these rolling hills.
Did you like how when we were going over it, I started singing the Jurassic Park theme?
I don't remember that.
Really? You were too in the moment. I was like, doo-doo-doo-doo.
Maybe I thought that was in my head because I always play that in my head when I see beautiful landscape. So we get there and the view from the parking lot is incredible. You can see the Guadalupe Mountains. You can even see our campsite.
Yeah, that was wild. The caverns itself are located at the visitor center, which sometimes, the main attractions at national parks, you have to go on a trail or, look up how to get to it. But this is just directly located at the visitor center.
It was straight up truly some Batman shit. What you do, how to get to the caves is you get in an elevator and there is a ranger there who kind of talks you through what to do, what not to do. He's almost like the start of like a ride at a amusement park.
At a Disney attraction.
Yeah.
Please keep all your hands, vehicles,
exactly,
objects inside your...
And so you get in this elevator, and he goes, "You're going 750 feet down."
Yeah.
And right away, that just, to me, it was like, I started feeling claustrophobic.
It was, yeah.
Because like
that's like your biggest fear.
That is my biggest fear. Is
buried alive, like underneath.
Yeah, like being embalmed.
Yeah.
Like where I'm still alive, but I can't move.
Yeah.
That is... Ooh,
I was, when we were down there at one point, I was thinking, like, what if this just caved in? Like,
I mean, I'm sure everybody has that thought.
It was wild. We should mention, during busy times, you should definitely make a reservation online beforehand. I'm pretty sure it's just through recreation.gov. Because we went on an off-season, we just went to the ticketing office and just made our reservation there. It was free with our America the Beautiful pass because it's a national park. But we were walking with a family, and the guy was saying he's been there at times where it's like Disney, that you are just sardines packed in lines going through the caverns, and we didn't have that at all. It felt like we had the caverns pretty much to ourselves. So on busy times, definitely make a reservation before. Not busy times, probably don't have to, but you can to be safe.
Yeah. So once you get down there, we went into what's called the big room. I think you could do 2 different ones. We did the big room. And as soon as you kind of get out of the elevator, there's a little kiosk to like buy stuff. And then you get to the left and you're in it. And as soon as you're in it...
Did you feel like it was weird? Like when you went down there and you saw like a little shop with one person working, and it felt like that does not belong. Yeah. Like it was weird. It seemed like totally out of place. It's like a gift shop / snack shop with like restrooms, but it
totally dystopian kind of vibe.
It was weird. Yeah, like you were, those movies where it's like they've created a society underground because the world is going to shit up top. Like that's what it felt like. Yeah. It was weird.
What was that movie with Brendan Fraser where he lived underground?
Oh my gosh, I used to love that movie. I had the movie on DVD. I don't remember the name.
Whatever happened to him?
He got canceled. He got canceled before canceling was canceling.
That's for a different podcast.
Different type of podcast. Yes. Celebrities who should or should not have gotten canceled.
So yeah, let's get back to the cavern. As soon as you walk in, I mean, it's so hard to describe because every twist and turn is like you're in a completely different world from the last that you just saw.
Totally. And it kept getting more and more impressive.
I remember at one point, the way that I would describe it was this beautiful, terrifying mid-century like cathedral built by vampires. Yeah. But also they got consultation from Dr. Seuss.
They collaborated and they were like, let's make this a thing.
And that's just, I mean, and that's not even giving it justice.
I think Maisie described it very well, though. She was walking around and pointing to the different formations of rock and was going, poop, 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 poop.
What else do you see?
Yeah, so she would say, poop, poop. But she ended up calling it a few other things. She called them scary monsters at one point.
Guy.
Broken teeth. That was interesting.
Yeah.
She called one formation some broken teeth.
Shark's teeth.
She said shark's teeth. She said Honest Castle.
Oh, I didn't catch that one.
Yeah. She said Honest Castle from Frozen.
Arendelle. Come on.
She didn't call it Arendelle. Babe. I know it's Arendelle.
You knew?
Of course I know. Okay. Oh, come on. What else did she call? Oh, and she called one of them a booby.
I really hope we have a picture of that one.
I don't know if we do, but...
For our YouTube watchers, because that looked like a boob.
They were, honestly, was so cool. She made a little friend and they were holding hands and walking through these...
The most adorable thing.
Caverns together. He was really patient with her. She kept going, yes. Mano?
Yeah.
Mano?
And he'd keep trying to tell us stories, and then she would interrupt and say, Mano, Mano. And then
he'd be like, okay, fine. Here's my hand.
Yeah.
Cute kid. I actually exchanged numbers with the mom. They're from LA, so if we go out to LA, they were like inviting us over for dinner and stuff. So
one of the perks of full-time traveling, you just meet people and
you go explore their hometown.
Yeah, and then just say, come on over for dinner, and if you want to stay at our house.
Yeah. So, I I don't think we mentioned this. Instead of taking the elevator, if you wanted to, we didn't because we didn't have Maisie's hiking backpack, but you could hike down. You could hike down 750 feet. And
wow.
Yeah, it's, relatively strenuous. When we were booking the tickets, I think you were in the museum with Maisie, the park ranger was kind of explaining it to me and showing me the map. She's like, you can go down this way or you could take the elevator straight down. So we opted not to. We took the elevator, she's like, that's what pretty much every family does. Mm-hmm. But if you wanted to, you could absolutely hike down and get yourself a bit of a workout before checking out these caverns. The loop around the caverns will take you like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how quickly you're walking it.
Yeah, for us it was about 2 hours just because we had the little one and, you got to stop whenever she feels like she wants to stop and look at something.
Yeah, and also we wanted to stop and look around and take pictures and soak it all in too. So we took our time. It took us about 2 hours. Maisie did great the whole time. She walked the whole thing. We didn't have to carry her at all. Yeah,
and my claustrophobia was put at a minimum, I would say, because it's just so vast. You don't really feel claustrophobic, even though if you really thought about it, you could get scared because you think you're 750 feet below the surface of the earth, mm-hmm. and all of that dirt and rock in between you. But underneath there is just so vast, and it's so beautiful.
It's beautiful and creepy. Like I did feel like
I think that's why for me it was so beautiful.
Forces that live here.
Yeah, for me that was why it was so beautiful though.
Because it was kind of creepy.
Yeah, it kept you very perked.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Is it's wild because it looks like you're walking through a Disney attraction, but it's real.
Isn't that crazy that that's what we think?
Yeah.
It looks like you're walking through a Disney attraction instead of being at Disney being like, oh my God, it looks like real caverns.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you were to measure the amount of national parks that I've gone to compared to the amount of times I've been at Disney, Disney is way up here. Although, I think in our first or second... No, it was maybe our third podcast. We were talking about how we were national park virgins. We've then since realized we have been to some.
We did, yeah. We've been to the Smoky Mountains.
Yeah, we did that for Christmas.
You've been to the Everglades.
I've done the Everglades National Park. I've done Key Biscayne. And I think there was another one in Florida that I had been to. And this is as like an adult that we could actually remember. But so, another national park checked off the list. I think we've done 3 now together on this trip. So we're in Carlsbad for a few more days. There's some things we want to check out here. A couple more little hikes. There's a little water park that I want to take Maisie to. There's a desert zoo situation here that could be cool. But mostly just catching up on work. We are close enough to a city that it doesn't take us an hour to drive to a post office when I have to drop off packages. Letting Maisie just play here with the kids and enjoy the outdoors. We cooked outside on the fire last night. That was so nice under the stars.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite dishes on the road.
Yeah, that was my shrimp Old Bay packet that we put over the fire.
We didn't do it the easy way.
Yeah,
but we got it done.
Yeah, we could have packed it a little bit tighter and had more firewood, but regardless, it was delicious. And roasted some marshmallows after. Mm-hmm. I took a TikTok video. Anybody who's on TikTok, go check it out. Of what we would eat in a day boondocking, and all of the meals made were without electricity. So kind of gives you an idea if you're camping. All of these things can be made camping. Using our propane stovetop, a campfire, and then that was pretty much it for all of our meals yesterday. Yeah. Did not use electricity for any of it. Simple, effective, delicious. Mm-hmm. That's just been our motto as far as food goes on the road. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of full-time families, when they're always hooked up to full hookups, it's just like they're cooking normal. But that's not always the case with us because we like to boondock most of the time. So we have to figure out delicious dishes that don't get old and we don't get sick of doing the same thing, that require minimal cleanup and are good for not having power. Yeah, one of the things that we have to keep in mind is how many dishes are we using, because we only have a finite amount of water, and if we want to refill, then we got to go all the way into town, and that's a whole thing. So a lot of things to consider. Water conservation is when huge. You're making dinner. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, Ellie's really great at being creative, like we were last night with the foil broil. Foil broil? Boil. Well, it's not a foil boil. To boil it, you got to put it in water. That's right. Is broil over the fire? Yeah. That's maybe what I meant when I was saying foil boil. I think I was meaning broil. Don't worry, I was calling it a low country boil to our neighbors. And he actually corrected me, and he's not even from the South. What did he say?
He's like, are you sure? I think you have to put water in that. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're probably right.
Oh, jeez. So why don't we get into our Q&A section?
Okay, let's do it.
The podcast.
Yeah, what do you got?
All right, so I got a question from Shadow in Lakewood, Colorado. He said, in a previous...
Great name.
Yeah, great name. Great name for a human or a dog.
Whichever.
In a previous episode, we showed... you and I showed a budget, and it didn't show how much per night we were spending on campground fees. How much do we budget for campsites, and how many nights of dry camping do we need to balance the nights of full hookups?
With our specific budget?
Yeah.
I'll give this one to you.
Okay. So that is very true. We did not show how much we budget for campsites. And that is because our budget that we go by and what we shared was what's coming out of our accounts every month, what we're actually paying. And these campsites and RV parks and national parks was almost all booked before we left for our trip. So that money's been spent. If it was on a credit card, it's been paid off. So it doesn't come out of our monthly cards, with the exceptions of we've been adding in a few things here or there. But I will go and tell you kind of how much we were spending, because if someone was listening to this and was thinking like, oh, I want to do something similar where it's partial boondocks, partial RV parks, partial national parks, and what that kind of looks like spending-wise. So our month that we are spending the least amount of money is in April. We're staying at an RV park for a couple days in Sedona, and we end up spending $260 that month on campsites. The month that we are spending the most was May, and we're staying at an RV park near Yosemite with full hookups for a week, and that was $381. We're staying at a campground in the National Park of Joshua Tree for 4 days, and that was $125. That has no hookups, but with national parks, booking through recreation.gov, you're still going to have to pay to stay in the park, and that could be anywhere from $16 to, upwards of $100 and something dollars.
Even with no hookups.
Even with no hookups. And then for 2 nights in Anaheim, we're staying at the Anaheim RV park when we're going to Disney California Adventure, and we're spending $140. So for May, we spent $646 on camping. When I look at the math of what we've spent so far on campsites and then kind of estimating what else we're going to be adding in, because some of these places too, like where we're staying in Forks, Washington, this free campground, it's on the honor system. You get an envelope and you leave cash in, and that's how you pay for your park, and you can't really pay for that beforehand. And there's other situations like that. Some campsites are a couple bucks a night and you pay for it when you get there. But we have so far spent about $3,000 for the 10 months that we're going to be on the road, for all different types of campsites. And then budgeting for another $500 for things that might come up. We want to add in more hookups one night. Something opens up at a national park that we want to snatch, or, whatever.
Yeah.
We're going to say about $3,500. So when you divide that by 10 for the 10 months that we're going to be on the road this year, it would be about $350 per month that we would have added to our budget if we were paying as we went, or if we were.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. When we did the first draft, we were saying about $200, but we also were planning on never having hookups. We were grossly underestimating how much we would need hookups.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we learned since being on the road is how fluid the itinerary is.
Yeah.
You can't just sit on a couch and then plan out a whole year of where you're going to be and where you're staying. And there's so many variables that come into play as you're on the road that it kind of has to be fluid. As long as flexible, yeah. As long as you have, what you did was an outline. Mm-hmm. As long as you stick within the parameters of that outline, you should be good.
Yeah.
And keep the nuance.
Things that could come into play of why your itinerary might change: weather, not having signal and having like a deadline for work or something that you need to get done.
Mm-hmm. Parts breaking down.
You need to be stationed for a couple days. I mean, there's a lot of things that come up. So where we are now with the itinerary is pretty solid, but I am definitely leaving some cushion for things coming up. So if we were to repost that budget, it would have, that $350 in there for campsites. per month.
Right.
And maybe we usually, with budgeting too, we usually round up to give us even more cushion. So we probably say about $400 a month for campsites. So the second part of that question was, how many nights of dry camping do we need to balance the full hookups? We are actually on our 7th night, I think, now of boondocking. We've been doing pretty good. I think we got another 7 more to go before we have hookups. We've only had to dump our tanks once, fill up our water twice, and we've been doing pretty good. I think our longest stretch is, 20 days is our longest stretch that we have so far on the itinerary of going without having hookups. So...
yeah, I think one of the more important things that we have gotten good at recently is being efficient with our generator, especially off grid.
Yeah. We really don't use our generator that much.
In the beginning, we would use it just to run one thing, and now we're very cognizant that when we run the generator, we're trying to maximize as much as we can. So we'll have a few things plugged in.
Yeah,
like
we'll be
our
charging all of
computers,
our
our
phones. We'll be using it for if we're cooking something that needs a generator. We'll have anything that we need the generator for. We'll plan it out before we plug it in, because
if we need to distract Maisie with a movie,
if we're trying to get some work done, we want to use the TVs. So we are trying to do about 2 to 3 weeks before going to hook up. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes it's a little bit less.
Yeah.
All right, so next question was coming from Austin in Raleigh, North Carolina. He says, what are some of the things that you do to try to feel normal and not like you are on an extended vacation?
Okay.
That one is comical. Not in like the haha, we're laughing at you for asking that component, but just funny because it couldn't be farther from a vacation.
Yeah. No, especially as newbies like Ellie and I being out here on the road every day. There is an oh shit moment of, are we going to make it? Like, that is not a vacation. No. That is the opposite of a vacation. In fact, I probably have been more stressed in my life than in this last month and a half, just because there's so much that you don't know, and everything is compounded. All of these little things that you take for granted when you have sticks and bricks are compounded exponentially. So
if you were to ask me what is a vacation to you, I would say, one, when you don't have to work, you're completely off work, and you can completely disconnect and just totally be present in the moment. 2, when you don't have to worry about anything, when you can just relax and, just totally just enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
And, today I have a full day off work, but besides that, I am working Monday through Friday, sometimes on Saturdays if I have to get orders done. And on top of needing to work, it's now... I need to go to find signal to work, whether it's to get internet to answer emails or send invoices for the engineering company that I work for, or I need signal to create and print these shirts. We need to turn the generator on if we are not hooked up to power to then make the shirts. I need to map out where a post office is to then drop off the shirts. Oh,
by the way, the CO detector just went off on top of all of that.
Oh my God, I thought you were telling me that now.
No.
You are trying to do things that you would do in your daily life, but with all these other obstacles thrown in. So it definitely does not feel like a vacation. What's cool though is, like, if you think of your normal day in a sticks and bricks home, if you were living just, in a normal life, you would have an activity probably that you would do with your kid. If your kid wasn't in school, or maybe when they got home from school, like, you'd either go for a walk, or you'd play a game, or you play a board game at night. So we do those things too, but we also, our activity during the day is usually some kind of hike in whatever city we're in, or some kind of experience in whatever city we're in. So like I'll work in the morning, usually till like 10:30, and then we'll take a morning hike in the national park or state park or wherever area we're in. Then Maisie will go down for a nap, and I'll get more work done during her nap, and then Mike will get work done, and then we'll usually be together in the afternoon. So I think our first actual vacation is when we're in Anaheim in May. And that's going to be a couple days where we're full hookups. I'm not going to work. We're going to be in Disneyland, California adventure. It's going to be just awesome and fun and stress-free. But we're just like any other family, just living it on the road. We still have to work. We still have our chores. We still have maintenance with our home. We still have a kid that needs to be taught things, like she's learning her numbers and letters and colors right now, and she can count up to 15, and she still has her curriculum, and that's with us, and it is very normal and doesn't feel like a vacation. But we have a couple vacations planned this year, like a normal family. We have Anaheim planned. We're flying out to Old Orchard Beach in July in Maine. We're going to Vegas in November for a wedding. We still have our normal vacations, but then this life that we've chosen is just living, but also learning and experiencing things just in a different way.
Well said.
Yeah.
Austin, I hope that she answered your question. I'm sorry that we focused so much on that one word vacation, but hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. There was another part to his question. He said, is the lifestyle generally more or less stressful than a conventional work life? I honestly, if I could start that one off, I would say it's just different. There's different kind of stressors.
I think that in terms of our specific situation, my old job had all different kinds of stresses that I don't have now. But now I have a whole new set of stressors that I didn't have when we were sticks and bricks.
Yeah.
So I think it's just these problems and issues will always be there, these stressors, but they just flipped and are completely different now than they were when we were living in a house.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that used to stress me out all the time because I worked from home was planning things and, will Mike be able to get the time off? Will he be able to be there with Maisie? Can I make this doctor's appointment? Will he be able to not work that morning or whatever? And now it's like we're always together. So that stressor is not there, but it's compounded with other things like, are we going to run out of propane? Are we going to run out of gas? Do I have enough Wi-Fi to get this work email sent?
I think one of the biggest learning curves for me is when I was working full time, a lot of our life and a lot of what we did revolved around my work schedule. Mm-hmm. Now you're the breadwinner, you're the one that's doing the work, so it's all about me trying to work around you and your schedule, and that for me has been kind of difficult to navigate through.
Yeah, especially because it's not like I can close the door to my office. Like, we're all in one small area. I think that part we've been pretty good about navigating, especially because even though we're all in one space, we do have clear defined lines of like, okay, I'm going to be working from when I have my sip of coffee to 10:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. Then we will do something as a family. Then during her nap time, we each have our separate private times where Michael can do whatever work he wants, and then I'm doing whatever work I need to do. We
have this cool new game called Red Light.
Yep.
And whenever I ask a question, if she just says red light or the other way around, that's just saying I'm in my office.
Yeah.
Don't bother me.
Because it's hard to tell sometimes if you're not like, if you're working in sweatpants on a couch, who knows if you're just looking at a TikTok or if you're actually working. So we have a red light, green light situation where if someone says red light, it means I'm working. I'll get back to you when I can.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, more or less stressed out, it depends on what stresses you out. There is always going to be something stressful with an RV, especially when you're living in it full time, because these are recreational vehicles and they are not made to last and go through as much stuff as we are putting it through.
I told Ellie yesterday, I think I was venting about something that broke, and I said, I really feel like I'm living in a papier-mâché house.
Yep, and it's so accurate. So if you think about still trying to work while being in these, albeit beautiful areas that might not have a strong signal, your house might be breaking around you, and you might be in dangerous weather conditions. Like, it's stressful. It also can be exciting. Yeah. But it's just different types of stresses.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, those are our questions for this week. You got anything else?
That's it for me.
All right. Well, thank you for watching, guys. Thanks for submitting in questions. Please tell your friends about the podcast, the YouTube.
Thank you for all the support so far.
Once we hit 100 subscribers, we can actually change our domain name to Doyle Family Detour. So we'll have a cocktail and virtually with you guys when we get when we hit 100. Yeah. But please subscribe, follow, comment, keep asking your questions. We love to share our journey with you. And as always, thank you for watching. We have no idea what we're doing, but we're so happy to be sharing it with you.
We'll see you on the road.